Okay. Should we start?
Let's start.
Okay. Hello and welcome. This is It's Fate. I'm Katie Christiansen.
And I'm Morgan Barker.
This is episode 26, and we're starting a new book.
Woo!
A Court of Silver Flames.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing chapters 1 through 12.
Yes. And in honor of Nesta's drinking problems, we're going to have some Prosecco while we record. And Katie and I also set some goals for the podcast for all of 2024. And it's only April, and we already met them. So we're also celebrating us.
We are. I don't know if I've ever had Prosecco.
It's just like champagne and wine had a baby.
Let's see. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, it's good.
Oh, I think I promise it's good. It just went down the wrong pipe.
Morgan hates it.
Oh my gosh. No, it's good. I will be drinking more.
Same. Okay.
Okay, so
Congrats to us.
yes, congrats to us. I'm gonna it's a tiny bottle, so we'll just
Fill us
finish
up.
it off.
To you, Nesta. Just kidding.
Nesta,
To us.
we're glad you heal. And to us.
Okay. In honor of Nesta, we're wearing boring gray because she's always wearing that boring gray dress.
I know.
She never takes it off.
Mm-mm.
I mean, she does. And then puts it right back on.
Good one.
And then we have our braids.
Yes.
Our honorable braids.
They're not exactly Nesta-esque. Or they're not like exactly what she does. Because I think
No.
she does like the whole around the
think so,
circle.
too.
And I actually saw a video on TikTok of somebody doing like a step-by-step tutorial. And I thought, I could do that, but I don't want to. So I didn't. So I just did little braids and whooped them over my head.
It looks cute.
Yeah, yours
My
look
hair's
cute,
too
too.
short, so Morgan braided it for me.
It looks good.
It does.
I'm an amateur braider, so no judgment. Okay, so as we see now in Silver Flames, we get a lot of action from the House of Wind. So if you had a magical house that could help you do one household chore, which would it be? This is our Pequot, by the way.
Probably laundry plus folding the clothes and putting them away.
That's all part of the chore of
Yes,
laundry.
I agree.
That's a good one.
There will be a pile. I hate doing laundry. Folding clothes, no.
The only way it's like okay is if I have a show that I really want to watch, and then I'll watch it while I fold.
Yeah, that does help.
Yeah, that for me, or cooking, which I actually love to cook, but the time it takes to plan the meals, make the grocery list, do the grocery shopping, and then cook every meal of every day for multiple people, it is a lot of time.
Even for myself. Sometimes I'm like, I don't care.
It takes a lot of energy mentally.
It does.
So as much as I love to cook, the time that I would get back from not having to do all that might be worth it.
I literally was like, okay, it's either laundry or cooking.
Yeah, same. Those are the two that take the most time.
Yeah, and like the mental effort. Because sometimes it's like thinking about like, oh, shoot, I have to do the laundry because I have this coming up and I want to wear this.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
okay, let's get into Silver Flames.
Are you excited?
I am excited.
Me too.
Okay, in chapter 1, the first thing I notice is the map is designed differently, like decorated differently than in like the ACOSF main.
It is.
It's like more like flowery and like more design to it.
It's more artistic.
Yeah. So there's roses around like the 4 corners. So it's around like these pillars, and the 4 corners there's like different things. So one of them is like a wave. Another one is a rose. And then we have like an acorn and then a snowflake. What do you think is the significance?
I feel like those represent the 4 seasonal quartz, right? A wave for summer, rose for spring, acorn for fall, and snowflake for winter. So I'm curious if there were elements that represented what's the word for the other quartz?
The time.
Yeah, the time quartz.
I don't know. Let's look.
Yeah. Oh, it's right there.
Oops, I got the other one. Those were the ones I noticed. Let me see.
I didn't really notice anything other than, wow, looks pretty.
I don't know either. If
No,
there's
I don't
the
see
time.
anything. But we also have these pillars, like you said, that are covered in roses and thorns, which a court of thorns and roses.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Maybe she doesn't like the time courts because of Reese.
Oh my gosh.
She hates that guy. They hate each other. Anyway.
Oh, I thought you were talking about SJM. No. And I was like, I don't think she hates like her main
she loves him.
Male lead character. I was trying to think of the acronym off the top of my head. MLC. There we go. I wanted to say like ME or something, but that's different.
Mm-hmm. That's me.
You ready to fight?
ME?
No, MME. Isn't that like mixed martial MMA?
Lots of acronyms we're throwing out today.
Mixed martial arts. Okay, anyway, clearly sports. Woo.
Okay. Then, getting started into the book, there's a brief prequel recalling Nesta going into the cauldron from like her perspective. She mentions that the King of Hybern did this to her and Elaine and Cassian specifically. And it's very interesting that she threw in Cassian in there because at the time of the cauldron, she like didn't really know him that well. And to be like, you did this to us and Cassian, and I'm like, well, he also hurt Azrael, but you seem to like.
I noticed that too. I was like, Azrael had a freaking ash arrow through his chest.
She was not concerned about him.
No, it's very interesting. There's a lot of this throughout, even just these first few chapters, where it's like she brings up certain things, and I'm like, come on, girly, what are you doing?
Okay, and then something that we kind of get is like we know that Elaine was like gifted a power. Do you think that Nesta would have been gifted a power before she like just started gobbling up the cauldron?
That's a good question. I would say no. It just seems like we've talked about this. Elaine is Elaine. Elaine is Elaine, and Elaine gets whatever Elaine wants to get. And she's so beautiful and perfect. How could he not gift her? And I think because it was written in that way, like Elaine is so perfect and beautiful, so she gets this thing. I don't know, unless it was like, oh, Nesta's so
powerful,
dark, and like I'm going to give her something equally. I don't know.
It was just a question I was like, I wonder if before she would have started gobbling it up.
I can't believe it was a literal bite.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
I don't like picturing that gives my teeth a bad feeling.
I feel like you have sometimes like teeth things. Like you feel things.
I literally feel things in my teeth. I don't like popsicles because I can't handle like the cold on my teeth.
Interesting.
I know. But literally I'm like my teeth hurt. Because the idea of like chomping into metal, I'm like, ouch.
It's not even like a liquid. It was like whatever it was. I don't even know what it is.
I don't know. But that's what I picture. I picture like her scraping and like it's like nails on a chalkboard, but in my teeth. I don't know.
Gross.
I'm so empathetic that I'm like feeling pain for the cauldron.
Okay, the book starts then 14 months after the end of the war with Hybern, and 8 months after winter solstice, with Cassian visiting Nesta to tell her that she is wanted by Feyre at the river house. And we learn that Nesta uses alcohol and sex to help dampen the hold on her power.
Yes. I love that we got a timestamp. And I feel like we get this a lot more in this book where it'll be like 2 weeks later or a month later. And I'm like, thank the cauldron, because
thank goodness it's not like 2 days, because I feel like that's the timeline and everything else.
I know. I just really appreciated this. But now that we know how much time has passed, it makes it even more sad to me that Nesta is still living in isolation and dealing with so much depression. It's like, it's been that's a long time.
That's almost a year.
That's more than a year, 14 months after the end of the war.
Yeah. I'm thinking for the winter solstice.
Yeah.
But you're right.
End of Frost and Starlight. Yeah.
Yeah. Which we already saw it then. She was isolating herself. So it has been more than a year that she's been like alone.
Yeah. Crazy.
You really see that she is still really deep in her like self-loathing, and she blames herself for like everything that has gone wrong. She really doesn't think about how sometimes bad things just happen.
I know.
Yeah.
It's really sad. And even while, like, so she's getting ready to go to Farrah's house. By getting ready, she's fumbling around to find her gray dress again. And she is contemplating her father's life and death. So she's always thinking about these things. But she says that he didn't love them enough to save them from poverty or starving, but loved them enough to raise an army and save them from war. And I think a lot of people, whether they're a parent or not, would probably agree with me. But especially as a parent, I don't understand this still. Like, how do you... I imagine there was mental health stuff going on with him as well. But how is it like, oh, I love my child enough to do this thing, but not this thing? It's either you love them or you don't.
It's like a little bit like too little, too late. I mean, not too little because he obviously freaking brought an armada. Like,
I know. It was a big deal.
It was a big deal, but it's like too late. You you missed out on like, and you didn't do your job as a parent for so long.
Yeah. Like, you robbed not only your daughters of the experience of having a present father, but you robbed yourself of getting to know your daughters and being present for them. And that's honestly, like, that is so sad to me.
It reminds me a lot of Katniss's mom in Hunger Games. Mm-hmm. It's like,
yeah,
I feel like hers was more clear that she was like in a depression. Like,
right.
Katniss kind of like describes like she just like sits there and like doesn't do anything, but he doesn't really either.
I know. Yeah. I think it's just the idea that he could sit there while his children suffer.
Starve.
Like,
go pick some berries.
Right.
Come on.
Like, a child will suffer with a depressed parent most likely regardless, but it was literally like a life or death situation. Yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah, it is. So in this whole like dialogue that she's kind of thinking about while she's getting ready, she mentions how like Reese sees all the ugly sides of her, and she thinks to herself that like she's always been horrible and that she's been thinking those things about herself before Reese has even like started picking at them. And it just makes me think about like, oh, she has had mental health problems for a long time. Obviously she lived in poverty, like that impacts your mental health, but like she's been aware of these things for a long time. Like it's like almost like it's been a long time coming. It kind of was like, this is it.
Yeah. It's like now or never.
Yeah.
You know? And two, on top of like the mental health issues that have probably been going on for a long time, I think it's evident from moment one that we meet her in the text, she is extremely prideful.
Yeah.
Like, probably one of the most prideful characters we read in this series.
Yes.
Because it's a mixture of like having the mental health issues where she feels incapacitated, but also being so prideful. Even we see with some of her interactions with Cassian, she's like, I know I should go help him right now. And it's not, I can't, it's, I won't. And yeah.
It's so frustrating.
It is. I just want to slap her.
She also is thinking to herself how much like wine and sex really help with like kind of helping her forget things. And I was thinking her and Moore would probably be really good friends if they didn't hate each other.
Which we don't even know why they hate each other.
I think it's because of Cassian. Yeah. But like it's still like never really said.
No, it's just this weird like.
And also Feyre, I think they blame her a lot for like, you let your little sister. I'm like, okay, I get it. But at what point you're just like, it happened. Like, I'm sorry.
Well, especially if Farrah's forgiving. Like, come on, let's try to welcome her into the fold, you know, which I think we kind of see at the end of this book. But we'll see what happens in the future of the series.
Yeah. So then Nesta goes to the river house, and we learn that she purposely ruined her friendship with Amryn. And that Reese and Feyre, they were like, no, we're no longer paying for your apartment because of your behavior.
It's about time. Sorry, Nesta.
I get why they waited so long. How do you do that? That would be so hard.
I know.
That would be so hard. Yeah. So Nesta, while she's waiting for Feyre and Reese, is looking around at their beautiful new house, and she notices a painting that Feyre did of Elaine and even their father. And she says that Elaine and Feyre were always doted on by their father, and Nesta was prized and trained by their mother, which, again, those are very interesting words. Like, Nesta and Elaine are doted on, Nesta is trained.
I don't know. She talks a little bit about her mother here and there.
Yeah.
And even like she mentioned later that her mom viewed Elaine as, just Elaine's Elaine. But Farrah was a creature that she didn't want to bother with. And I'm like, what? This woman.
Their parents are weird.
No. And even if there wasn't any sort of like physical or obviously external abuse going on, I get the hint that like there was some emotional abuse,
manipulation,
some anger, maybe manipulation for sure.
Yeah. And then like on a child.
Yeah.
Who, no wonder why Nesta sucks.
Well, if Nesta knew that her mom viewed Farrah as a creature or whatever it was, I don't remember exactly what her verbiage was for Farrah. Or maybe she was talking about herself. Then like all the siblings knew. They all knew. Like no wonder Elaine acts the way she does if her parents raised her to be that way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And no wonder why Farrah kind of stepped up, because she seemed like more tomboyish and like a little bit of like a rebel rouser, as you said.
Yes. Is that the term?
I think so.
Okay. Or even just, Farrah, maybe she's always kind of had to take care of herself. Like even living in the mansion, like nobody cared about her.
Yeah.
Because she didn't have a purpose for them to gain more wealth or gain more notoriety in their society. So
yeah, it also was like, okay, so maybe Elaine and Farrah were like a little bit closer than I realized they were growing up.
That's a good point. Yeah, if Nesta was kind of isolated from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so this whole conversation really came off as a bad intervention.
Horrible.
And it totally made me think of How I Met Your Mother. Have you seen that show?
No.
Oh my gosh. They have an intervention sign, and it's used, I think there's like 8 or 9 seasons, and it'll come up over and over again, but they're all like best friends. It would be like if the Inner Circle did it, so it works. This was a bad intervention. Like, I don't know. What, Nesta knows all these people hate her. Like, what? This is just so inappropriate. Do you think everyone had to be there? Do you think everyone had to be there for Nesta to listen, or could it have been a conversation just sister to sister?
No, I think it could have been a conversation sister to sister. I think it would have been much better conversation.
I agree.
I think Nesta would have been more willing to open up more, or at least like not be rude.
I agree. And not feel attacked.
I would feel attacked. Okay, you have Amryn there, who she is not friends with no longer. Why is she there? You have Reese there, who she hates.
Yes.
Like
Cassian, who she has this weird history and tension with.
Why couldn't it be just, I don't understand why Farrah or anyone was like, yeah, just Farrah. Go talk, Farrah and Elaine. Go talk to
and
Nesta.
like maybe Reese is on standby as needed, because it is like also his, I mean, it's Farrah's money too, but it's also like they made the decision together. So if Reese needed to step in and, I don't know, say something, but he probably wouldn't have had to.
No.
It just felt so weird.
It was not good.
No. In the next chapter, Nesta is told that she must move to the House of Wind, train with Cassian, and work in the library, or return to the human realm. Nesta continually argues that Reese isn't her High Lord and she doesn't belong to this court. And I'm like, girlfriend, you live there and spent all their money. What do you think about her argument? You think it's valid?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I think this is her way of being like, I'm not Fae. Like, don't tell me what to do, because I'm not Fae. Like,
yeah.
I also think it is kind of like silly at
right.
the same time. I'm like, but you are like, you're living in the like his area.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just be like not follow the rules.
Right. And I guess like Lucian for a time being was living there and probably didn't recognize Reese as his High Lord. So I get that a little bit, but like he's literally bankrolling your life.
I guess it's like if I like move to Canada for a little bit, is their prime minister my prime minister? No, it's like
no,
but
I'm you're still gonna have to like follow. But what if he like let you live in his house and gave you an unlimited credit card?
Then that is my prime minister.
That is your prime minister.
Do they have a prime minister? I'm so sorry. I'm pretty sure they do.
Yeah. Canada does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know. Cassian kept noticing that Reese was pissed that Nesta hurt Farrah. And I was like, she's an alcoholic. Stop. Like, you know she's going to hurt your feelings. Like, this is why he shouldn't have been there. Because I feel like it adds this layer of, like, monitoring.
Yeah, I agree. Where it just feels like there's all these eyes on her.
Yeah.
And it's like if you had a grievance with your sister, obviously none of these are the dads here, but like, and then you're like, I'm bringing dad into this while we sort this out, especially as adults. Like, that's how it felt.
It did.
It's like, we need to sit down with mom and dad because you stole my favorite sweater. Like, okay, really? Nesta also, though, continually blames Farrah for her becoming Fae. Do you think this is a fair accusation?
No.
Yeah.
She, in her thoughts, never thinks this. She never thinks that. She knows, though, it'll hurt Farrah. She knows that Farrah feels that way. So she's like, I'm just going to be a bitch.
Literally.
I'm just going to be a bitch.
Yeah.
That's what she's thinking.
She's pushing everybody away.
I know.
And it's really sad, but also really annoying. Nesta speaks to Farrah alone and attempts to convince her to change her mind, but Farrah's mind is made up. And here Nesta's inner dialogue about choosing to hate them instead of love them, since she realized they could be so easily taken away, was heartbreaking. I was like, this is just a mixture of so many things. You're prideful, you're depressed, you're angry, and you're also terrified.
She's so scared. She's so scared. It's really sad. But I also was thinking, okay, just because, like, you remove yourself, like, there's still war happening.
You could still literally lose them. You'll be just as sad. In fact, you might be more sad because you'll have regrets.
I guess I could understand this perspective more if, like, everything was done. But, like, things are still happening. Like, there's still war coming. So I'm like.
But even if everything was done, then why are you scared?
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
I don't know.
That is true.
More of Nesta's inner dialogue shows us that she hates that Farrah calls the inner court her family, and she says things like as if the Archeron family wasn't good enough for her. It wasn't. Like, it wasn't.
No.
And also good for Farrah for finding her chosen family.
Yeah.
And Nesta's still not being there for her.
No.
So what, like, yeah.
I think it definitely is this Projecting, thank you. It's this, like, projection of Nesta knows she's a shitty sister, but I think it's, like, a projection that, like, Nesta wants family in whatever sense that is, and she's not getting it.
Yeah.
And she will not get it.
Yeah.
Because she's has lots of things going on right now.
She has some other things to get first.
Yeah. Farrah, it's this whole thing. This whole intervention, she brings up being embarrassed about getting the bail in front of her chosen family. And I'm like, dude, Nesta's underlyingness is her being so guilty. Like, she already feels such of, like, a burden. Why are you bringing this up?
Yeah. It didn't bother me as much in this situation because it's like what else is Farrah supposed to say? And I'm also just like, like, all right, Nesta, you can dish it, but you can't take it.
Oh, yeah. I guess it's what's making me upset is I'm like, you were embarrassed? Who cares? Your sister is literally drowning herself in alcohol. God forbid that you get embarrassed in front of your chosen family. Why would they be embarrassed of that? They all know, like, this is your family. Why I don't know.
I took it more as, like, not being embarrassed over the money, but, like, the embarrassment of, like, this is how far we've lost her, kind of. Okay. More of that, of, like, because later, and I don't remember if I comment on it or when it comes in, but Cassian remembers seeing Farrah, like, just silently cry as they got the bill. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so, like, she's really brokenhearted.
That's not embarrassment.
I know, but I think she's using that word in a way here for whatever reason. I get that, like, from a bird's eye perspective, right? It was not the right term to use, but I don't know. Is Nesta, if she said, like, it broke my heart, Nesta will just throw spear after spear at her, you know?
Like, you did that to me.
Yeah. She'd be like, oh, it broke your heart. How about the fact that blah, 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 blah. I don't know. Just stupid stuff. Nesta's views on her sister is so sad. And because she just thinks that Farrah has gotten whatever she wanted, which, like, I guess now she has, but do you know how much your sister has been through.
She's so annoying right now.
Yeah. And that Elaine just happily abandoned her to choose Farah. And like, I just have such a hard time understanding how Nesta can see her sisters in this light, especially Farah. Just be like, she gets whatever she wants since the day she was born.
I think this is a really good, I think, and pretty accurate view on the way that like a person who is depressed like this really does not have a grip on reality. Like their perspective is so warped by their own self-pitying, self-loathing. She feels so worthless that like, yeah, compared to her, she does feel like Nesta or Farah got everything because she has nothing going on right now.
I know. No, that's a good point. They create their own reality.
And their own perspective. It's sad, but also you're like, girl.
I know. It's so hard with mental health, whether in books. I mean, it's less... It doesn't hold as much weight when it's fictional characters you're reading about. But like in books, real life, whatever, it's really hard to find that line of like excusing behaviors and understanding where you're coming from because of mental health, but then also being like, that's just not okay. Like it's not okay to treat people that way. It's not okay to do these things over and over again and never try to get help or grow.
Yeah. It's honestly easier for me to have empathy for like Nesta because I couldn't imagine living with a person like this. Like as much as I love Nesta, like that is such a hard emotional mental load to have. Like I could not imagine.
Like are you talking about like if you were Farah?
If I was Farah having a sister who like that's a lot.
I can't imagine.
No.
And feeling like I mean, we already know that Farah puts that weight on herself, and it's her sister. It's not just a friend. It's not Reese's friend, or, you know, it's literally her flesh and blood, so that emotion's amplified.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like this is, like, the perfect introduction to, like, what Nesta does in this book. She's feeling really lonely and sad, and she knows she needs help, but then, someone offers her help. Yeah, not in a perfect way. No one's perfect, whatever.
Right.
But they offer her help, and because she feels so worthless, she lashes out because she's like, I don't deserve help. And then it's just, like, over and over and over again.
It literally is.
And that's what the book is in, like, 1,000 pages. The end. We're done.
That's it. That's all of it.
Okay, so in chapter 3, we see Cassian and Rhys discuss the fact that there seems to be more dissent amongst the Illyrians, and that Rhys wants Cassian to help deal with the human queens.
Okay, Cassian describes this model of their world that Rhys has that can track the sun and tell time. Does this make you think about anything else in the Massiverse? Crescent City, Autumn King. Yeah, okay, I just wanted to point that out because I was like, what could this mean? That's it.
I like that. Especially because we have like an Autumn King and like an Autumn Court.
Yeah.
What does that mean? They both have red hair.
But then like
fire powers.
Bryce is...
Who's the Crescent City 3 main female character?
Yes. She's related to somebody else. Her bloodline's connected to somebody else in ACOTAR.
Yeah.
I won't say who. So it's just like, okay, how do these things... And Autumn King's her dad. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay. So we learned that Rhys is basically telling Cassian that he needs him as a courtier.
Courtier? I thought that was
courtier.
I thought that was like a fancy way to say sex worker, but I'm way off. I'm thinking of courtesan.
I mean, Cassian could. He
My
probably
bad. The whole
would.
time I'm like, I know that's not what this is. And it took me saying it out loud to realize the word I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Okay. I learned something
Not
new.
a courtesan. A courtier.
Courtier.
Courtier
Sounds so weird.
It does. It's probably courtier. I think it's like French, right? The ending of it, IERs, remind me of like French vibes.
Yeah.
But what do you think about this whole plot line for Cassian of like learning how to be a like tricky spy type?
I'm excited for him to try something new. When they tried to explain like the reasoning behind it, I didn't really feel it.
The reasoning I think was, I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
We don't have to like explain it. I don't know.
Yeah. But I'm excited for him to try something new. And whenever he does have little moments like this, I'm laughing because it's hilarious seeing him try to do this role.
I think he's way better at it than he gives himself credit for.
I think so too.
I would be horrible.
Really?
I would be so bad.
Like,
lying and stuff. I think I'd be like,
oh, like smooth talking.
Smooth talking. I'm not as smooth. I'd probably make a lot of jokes. That's what I do if I'm trying to like avoid
I was gonna say I'd
things.
probably be laughing the whole time.
Eris would be like, "What is wrong with you? Can you just answer my question?"
I've had 3 sips of prosecco, so who knows?
Okay, so more winnows. Cassian and Feyre, or sorry, Cassian and Nesta.
Yeah.
Into the House of the Wind.
House of the Wind.
And Cassian flies them in so Nesta can get settled into her own room. So earlier, Rhys mentions he's like, in the conversation with Cassian.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Rhys mentions how, like, or Cassian's like, Feyre's kind of, like, seems, like, pissed at you for how you handled Nesta. But then he's, like, mentions that he's gonna, like, have sex with Feyre, even though she's mad at how everything happened between Nesta and Rhys. And then Feyre gives Cassian this look that, like, almost like a horny look that, like, she's, like, gonna get down with Rhys. And I'm like, you were just so upset at him for, like, being kind of weird with your sister, and now you're just gonna be like, I'm so turned on?
They're probably just anticipating, like, really good makeup sex.
Probably. And I know they're, like, planning for a baby.
I know, but it's still, it's weird.
A little bit. I was like, what? This doesn't make sense.
I was like, wow, you guys are already, like, can you at least duke it out first? Like, have a little brawl and then get horny? Maybe fighting turns them on. I mean, we've seen them do it covered in blood after war.
They like it.
They like violence.
Cassian also mentions that him, Rhys, and Azriel have had sex all in the same room.
I just blocked that out. I don't love that at all. No.
I don't love that either. That is a very intimate.
Yep. No.
Very intimate. They know a lot about each other, and that's all I saw about it.
Yep. Anyway. Okay, so it's very clear. We mentioned this already. Nesta and Mor do not get along. No. Why do you think Mor winnowed them to the house instead of Cassian flying them the whole way? Was it just to, like, start stuff?
Again, why are they bringing in people that Nesta hates? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I feel like Rhys and Feyre are really busy right now, and they're trying to conceive a baby, so they're like, my window is open, but I'm like, it'll take like 2 seconds to like let your sister settle in. It says that Mor literally cringed at Cassian when Nesta took her arm to winnow, and I was like, that is so mean.
No, Mor, it's no secret that I have had beef with her since ACOSF War, and then it just amplified with Frost and Starlight, and now I'm like, you are mean, and I am falling more and more into the, Mor's evil.
I was like, why are you like, it was like a mean girl thing. I'm like,
so mean girl.
Now is not the time. Now is not the time to be like, oh, you're touching my hand. I'm like, get over yourself.
I know, and I have a little bit of a theory that we'll discuss later. Okay. But yeah, it's not, I don't like it.
No.
When Nesta is recounting her time at the House of Wind before the war, she remembers how depressed Elaine was. And it's interesting that all 3 sisters have gone through depression, yet they all responded to it differently. Like, Feyre wanted to be kept busy, right? She's like, get me out of this house, let me do stuff. Elaine became a shell, and Nesta attempts to distract and drown it out. I was just like, is that why they aren't seeing that they're all feeling the same thing? Well, obviously neither of her sisters were there for Feyre's depressive time, but like they were there for Elaine's, and now they're there for Nesta. But it feels like they aren't understanding that they're feeling the same emotions, and maybe it's because they're handling them differently.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, and I think for I think for all of them, it's sometimes hard to see it when Feyre would have never done that. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that's hard for her to understand, and that's totally fine. But like,
yeah,
Feyre would have never like gone out drink. I mean, she did love fairy wine though. So
she did love fairy wine, but everyone copes so differently.
Yeah. Nesta reveals that she had barely slept when Elaine was depressed in fear that like Elaine would go hurt herself. I think that is so terrifying, and I feel really bad for being mad at them in Aqua War, but also it's okay.
I know.
It's just
I didn't feel bad until we learned about the timeline and how little time has happened.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I get it now. For some reason, I thought it was like 6 months to a year. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, it's time to like try a little bit.
So Nesta says that she has this like heavy hollow nest hugging her down like a fairy creature, wrapping its bony hands around her ankles and pulling her down beneath a dark surface. That's a foreshadow.
I didn't even catch that.
That is a foreshadow.
That is so good.
Yeah.
I love that you found that. Chapter 4. Cassian and Moore discuss why Rhys needs Cassian's help with the human queens, and we find out that they have drafted a treaty for peace, but the Fae kingdoms on the continent do not want to sign it. Right after we find out that life and death could come down to a matter of whether or not someone blinks at the Court of Nightmares, Moore suggests, because Cassian and Moore are like having lunch or something, Moore suggests that Nesta should be dumped there, and she'd probably love it. And I get the feeling that Moore was maybe trying to like make a joke or lighten the mood, but I still was like, is that mean girl thing again? What did you think of this interaction?
I thought it was super rude. It's like, yeah, is Nesta a bitch? Yes. Is she evil though? Like,
no.
She's not like here who's like torturing people.
And Moore knows how females are treated in the Court of Nightmares. Like, she literally lived it, and she's basically saying, oh, she deserves to be raped and abused? Like, that's what they do to people. Sorry, trigger warning, but like...
Moore is...
I don't know.
No.
She's sus.
Yeah.
Did the kids still say that?
I don't know. Maybe not.
Whatever.
So, Eris convinced Kier to indefinitely delay his visit to Valaris, which is great for Moore.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder, what did Eris tell Kier to convince him not to go visit?
I don't know. I said last episode that what if they're in cahoots in some way? Although I don't think so.
No.
But yeah.
Interesting. I don't know.
Nesta has a nightmare about being back in the cottage, and Cassian is just stressing about training with her. And so stressed. And Nesta recounting her childhood does make me really sad for her. We also learn that the guy she was courting physically abused her and attempted to rape her. So that's a lot. And I just understand why, like, she describes herself as becoming a wolf, and she said she had to become this to survive. So I understand that. And I just wish that she would realize that wolves actually like travel in packs, and she needs her sisters.
Yeah. She says that when it came to like put the wolf away, it devoured her. Mm-hmm. What do you think this means?
She was too far gone. Mm-hmm. Like, she doesn't know how to live in a way that is not in her wolfish survival isolation way.
Like, it maybe devoured all of like her softness, her
anything quote unquote good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sad.
I know.
So Cassian and Nesta have breakfast, and then Cassian takes her to Windhaven, which is in Illyria. But she refuses to train.
Yes. Not me taking notes when Cassian is telling Nesta like what foods to eat in order to have the most energy. I'm like, oh, I'm tired all the time. Let me write this down.
Yeah, I wonder if SJM did any like research on things.
She probably did. It sounded right to me.
Yeah, I think she did too. Yeah. But I was like,
even like the training and stuff. Yeah,
and like the warming up and cooling down.
Yeah, breathing, balance. I knew Nesta was prideful, but dang, this scene where she sits on a rock and refuses to train, even though she has a big voice inside her telling her to get up, was intense.
She is so self-destructive. Mm-hmm. Like, she knows that he's going to be pissed at her, and she's almost like, yeah, I deserve it. I want you to be mad at me.
Mm-hmm. You being mad at me proves that I'm unworthy, and that's what I want to believe about myself.
Yeah. It's hard to watch.
It really is.
It is.
Okay, sexual tension is already building between them, and they've been under the same roof for less than 24 hours. There's a line where Nesta says she let him nuzzle and lick her throat at some point, but then goes into talking about her brief kiss with him during the war. What did I miss?
Okay, I went to go and search.
Okay.
There's a bonus chapter in ACOMAF, and I linked it.
ACOMAF, not even ACOWAR.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And I linked it. I'll put it in the show notes too.
Okay.
So I highly recommend it. Nesta calls herself selfish and a coward, and she's filled with rage that she was willing to starve them for it. And she says, little Feyre stepped up, and she was so mad at that. I was like, where is this? Where is this, Nesta?
I know.
What happened? She... Okay, Cassian also talks about being jealous that Mor seemed more into Azriel, but not in a jealousy that like Mor was more interested in him. Jealous that Azriel was not his and Rhys's anymore because Mor was kind of like
interesting.
Him. Yeah,
Mor showing interest in Azriel.
Mm-hmm. All in this chapter,
and they nuzzled and licked,
and Cassian nuzzled and licked.
Okay.
Nesta's lie.
Yeah.
Lick. Nesta's neck.
Okay, I'll have to read that.
So
I missed that one.
Both of their point of views.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm like, Nesta, you have this in you, girl.
I know. Come on. Okay, after refusing to train, Nesta has her first shift at the library and then eats dinner alone. And when Mor goes to pick them up to take them to Windhaven again, she compares Nesta to those who tortured her in the Court of Nightmares. I just don't see how somebody who beat their own child to near death and nailed a sign to their body, disowning her, can be compared to somebody who is in a squabble with their sisters and is an alcoholic. Those are very different things.
Who all this happened when she was a child.
Right.
Let's remember.
Right. And now, like, yeah, she's not making the wisest choices, but like somebody who beats their own child and dumps them in a foreign land is not equivalent to somebody who's mad at their sis. Like, are you kidding me, Mor?
They love their grudges. They do.
Oh my goodness.
She's basically telling Nesta, you're evil at heart. And I know that. And I'm like, you don't even know her.
I know. It's really ick. I have the ick for Mor. she gave me the ick.
Okay, I also forgot how traumatizing it was for Nesta to be dumped in the cauldron.
Mm-hmm.
She gets flashbacks of it, just like seeing.
I know.
Clotho's hands?
That's what I say. Clotho.
Okay. I say Clotho too.
It's probably a voiced Clotho. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like for you to like look at someone else's trauma and like think about getting it's like PTSD.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
When Nesta is done with her shift at the library, Clotho says to her that Feyre speaks highly of her, and Nesta calls her a liar. Do you think this really was a little lie?
I can't imagine Feyre saying anything like mean, like overtly mean about Nesta, but I can see her describing her honestly but lovingly, being like, Nesta's really strong.
Yeah.
Nesta's really powerful.
Yeah.
Nesta is very honest.
Right. Or like Nesta keeps to herself, where it's like Nesta literally wants nothing to do with me.
But yeah. But I don't think Feyre would ever be like,
she's
Nesta's
awful.
alcoholic.
Yeah. And I hate her. After her shift, Nesta says that she couldn't get to dinner fast enough with how hungry she was, but just the day before, she says that she never feels hunger anymore and only eats out of survival. And I'm like, just a little bit of purpose is already helping you.
Oh, yeah.
Look at this.
She also like doesn't eat any of it, and she wants to go. She was like, I want to get more wine.
Oh, I know. That's right. She sits down. She's like, I need to eat. And then she's like, wine. And the house ignores her. And then she's pissed.
Yeah. Good job, house.
Yeah.
Nice job. Cassian then goes to visit the Band of Exiles.
Yes.
Oh,
which is, if you don't remember, is Lucien, Jurian, and Vasa.
Mm-hmm. And he learns that Eris is there looking into the Autumn Court's missing soldiers.
Right.
We found out that Bryalin.
I always say Braylon. We should look that up.
We always are like, we should look this up. We never do. Braylon is the queen who was turned into an immortal crone. And she has sought alliance with Koshi, who is the death god who owns Vasa. And now she's also seeking alliance with Baron.
Yes.
We also learned that Braylon,
whatever
her name is, did something to Eris's soldiers.
Yes.
Okay. Cassian's kind of snorts at the Band of Exiles name, but I'm sorry. Is the Inner Circle any better?
No, any group that gives themselves a name is a little cringe, but also like I love
cute.
it.
Yeah.
And Cassian, the Inner Circle could very well be known as the Band of Exiles as well.
Yes, they really could.
Yeah.
Inner Circle is more
exclusive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Band of Exiles is like, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ragtag gang.
Amren told Cassian to keep reaching out his hand to Nesta. Where was this advice? 9 months ago when Feyre, in A Court of Frost and Starlight, when Feyre goes to Amren, when Nesta and her were still friends, and Amren literally gives Feyre the opposite advice.
Leave her alone.
In the last book, Amren was like, just leave her alone. Now she's like, reach out your hand.
I don't know. Maybe Amren didn't think that it would take this long. Like maybe Amren thought that, that was what was best at the time. But yeah it's not a good situation.
Nope.
Cassian comments on Lucien being able to play so many roles between the Band of Exiles, the Night Court, and the Spring Court, and I love it. It makes me think back to his Fox Mask days. Do you think he is truly like loyal to all three groups in some capacity?
I think he is, but I think he reveals the information that's important to that person, but he's not going to tell you more.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to like lie, but I think he's maybe lie by omission. Like it's a need to know basis.
Yes.
You don't need to know that. I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah. I'm just curious because I know at one point, I don't think we talk about it, but Rhys, I think it's Rhys, who is kind of like, yeah, Lucien is still our emissary, but like, let's be honest, the Band of Exiles is what he calls his home now, or maybe it's Feyre who realizes that, which I think like reading about this, he still wants to do his role in the Night Court and be there for Tamlin, but I think if it came down to it, like the Band of Exiles is where he feels at home.
I think so too, and they probably know the most information. I think they know the whole picture, and everyone's just getting like pieces.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so as I've seen, more people speculate that like Jurian and Vasa might have a love connection. I still get the vibes from writing that if it's anybody, it'll be Lucien and Vasa. What do you think?
I like that.
I got like just like the way that SJM would describe Lucien like watching her, or like he flinches when she talks about having to go back to the fire lake pond, whatever it's called, which it could just be out of like empathy for his friend. But I'm like, why is that noted? Like it's noted that out of the two of them, Lucien is the one who showed like the most emotional response to that.
Yeah, and I feel like SJM sometimes likes to not make the like love interests always talk. Like always like sometimes they'll be like a little like I'm thinking of like Tamlin, Feyre, and Lucien. Like Feyre and Lucien were the ones who were friends, but like that's not who Feyre was like more attracted to.
Yeah.
And that's like not, I don't know.
Yeah. And I feel like she doesn't make, other than Nesta and Cassian, the love interest isn't always obvious.
No.
Because even in Throne of Glass, right, we got spoiled, which was fine because we were looking up stuff on TikTok. Yeah. But it's like you get kind of vibes, but you're like, oh, but it really could be somebody else. Like you don't really know.
Something SJM does, though, is she doesn't always, like she kind of plans, right? Like, because like Nesta was supposed to like be for Lucien.
Oh, that's right.
So I think sometimes like she kind of has this idea, but then characters just like don't work out together.
As she writes them.
Yeah. So then, which I kind of like. I like that like as the characters change and develop, their love interests change.
Which maybe that's why as a reader, it's like, oh wait,
who is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Vasa says that Koshi entrapped her, not because the queens like sold her out, but because Koshi just wanted her. I want to know, what does he want her for?
I know. It's really interesting. And we never actually meet Koshi. That's coming.
It's coming.
I just saw a video today where someone's like, I'm pretty sure SJM is making an announcement this week. And I'm like, how do you know? What is that? Are you just dreaming about it?
They had Elaine foresee.
I know. Or Elaine saw it.
Okay. Eris also says that
Like how is
the human queen?
Katie gonna say her name?
The human queen, the old human queen, Queen Bee.
Queen Bee
sent gifts to Baron that smelled strange, and then they smelled this. That was the same smell that he smelled when in the area that his soldiers had vanished. And I'm thinking, there's in Throne of Glass, there's a special like stone.
Oh my!
That smells like that can like possess people basically. That's has this particular weird smell.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, did she possess them in some way? I forget what happens to them.
Okay.
So don't tell me.
I was about to tell you.
Don't tell me. This is a thick book. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what happens?
I was actually really impressed with how far we got.
Yeah.
So far.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nesta attempts to descend the stairs in order to get her wine, but she only makes it 111 steps before having to go back up and runs right into Cassian, who tells her she'll have a better chance if she actually comes to training and participates. The description of the descent is terrifying. It's a spiral staircase that has no railing on either side and very few windows. Absolutely not. No.
I don't like the windows thing, like the no windows kind of. The spiral, you're going to tumble down.
Yeah, and it's the railing for me. Like the spiral, you're going to get dizzy, but if you have a railing, I'm like, okay, you got the railing. But like literally, you could just go boop and fall down into the abyss.
She does fall.
Yeah, but luckily she stays on the stairs.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Not into it. Nesta has breakfast with Cassian and Azriel, and then Nesta gets into a sparring match of words with Cassian, and the sexual tension brews again. And we also learned that Azriel is going to spy on Queen Bee. And I thought the interaction between Azriel and Nesta was interesting. It said that she immediately straightened when he entered and seemed to find composure. And this conversation also seems to be like the longest civil conversation she's had with anybody. And it wasn't an argument. It was like friendly.
Az has that, like, he's a thing on someone. Like
I
people.
know. And she even describes him as the most beautiful. It's like Elaine, but Azriel.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I am not.
Everyone just loves Elaine, and everyone just loves Azriel. I know. I'm
sorry, but
I go back and forth, but the more I think about it and the more I look at fan art, I'm like, Elaine and Lucien. I want it.
I love to, like, Gwen is so outgoing and Azriel so,
yes.
Which, that's not like a spoiler if you haven't, like.
Oh, yeah. It's just for this book.
Well, and it's like, we don't even know what's going to happen.
No, we really don't. It's all speculation here. But it also, like, Azriel is continually falling for essentially unavailable females. And I love the idea of somebody unexpected sweeping him off his feet.
It gives me very, like, grumpy sunshine vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Nesta says that she wants to train with Azriel instead. And this kind of is the same question, but, like, what is it about Az that just seems to make people feel safe?
I think for her, Nesta's kind of like, he stays in his business. He's not going to be asking me questions.
He's not going to give me mate vibes.
He's hot.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm, like, it's nothing's there. So it's, like,
right.
I can just, like, stare at his gorgeous body and it's, like, fine.
There's no risk for her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be no reward either.
I know. Nesta again refuses to train, and after turning blue with cold, Cassian has her wait in Rhys's mother's old home. And Nesta has a moment where she's waiting in front of the fire, and a log snaps, and she flinches. And Cassian notices this and realizes that she was reliving something traumatic, but he doesn't realize that it was associated with the fire itself. But regardless, I just love that he noticed it and offers her a way out by telling her there are shops nearby. And he doesn't, like, force her to talk. I think he knows her well enough that she's not going to talk. He's just like, he notices she looks uncomfortable and doesn't force her to change what she's doing or where she is, but just gives her an exit if she wants it.
Yeah, I think this goes back to, like, Amren's advice of, like, reaching out a hand. Mm-hmm. This doesn't mean you force someone to do something.
Right.
It's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, I think the way he phrased it was perfect.
I agree.
Yeah. So Nesta then wanders into Emery's shop looking for some warmer fighting leathers.
Yeah, I loved their first conversation. It felt weird, again, to see Nesta have, like, a normal conversation. And she even comments on the fact that she felt weird about it.
Yeah.
She was like, it's weird to be civil to people.
I mean, the only time she's probably ever had, like, a conversation in the past few months was, like, her going to bars and, like, getting men. Like, I don't think she's been doing normal. I don't think she's been, like, grocery shopping or, like, anything, had, like, normal human interactions.
I know.
Or fey human interactions.
Yeah. Now I'm stuck on the fact that they probably need to go grocery shopping. Just seems like too mundane for their lives. When Nesta stares at Emery's wings, Emery shares that they were clipped because her father was a traditional male and believes females should be kept to raising their families. Why does flying mean a female can't also have a family?
Because it gives her a choice. She's a form of freedom that they cannot control. She could just fly away
right now.
She could just fly away.
God forbid she takes a quick little...
God forbid she has a choice to go somewhere else.
I know.
It's so ridiculous.
It really is. And I was thinking, like, Reese's mom did this. Reese's mom kept her wings, had a family, seemed to be a very present mother, and fully wherever she wanted to.
Well, we learned that he's a traditional male.
I know, but you would think that, like, her story would have encouraged some Illyrians. Like, look at this female Illyrian who became a High Lord's wife and was still able to be successful with what she did. And, like, I don't know.
I'm sure they downplay it. I'm sure it's like, well, they were mates, but, like, that's not going to happen to you.
So she didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Well, like, you're not giving anybody a choice anyway, guys. So.
I know. There's no choice.
Anyway, it just bugs me.
Emery says that no one but probably the High Lord of Dawn himself could heal her wings. I hope this is a foreshadow.
I do too.
For getting her wings healed.
I agree.
She deserves to fly.
I agree. I would love to see that.
Nesta has her shift at the library where she meets Gwen, and she also starts to have this, like, interesting relationship with the House of Wind. Nesta has a thought that Cassian has no idea that she truly wants him because she pushes him away so much. And I forgot how early on we get Nesta basically admitting, like, that she has feelings for him.
Yeah.
She is also so jealous of Moore. She calls Moore Cassian's past lover, and I doubt that Moore or Cassian would ever say that they were lovers.
I know. I think, too, that is coming a little bit from Nesta's, like, more traditional background, especially for this time. She's like, they slept together once. They were lovers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think, I know it'd be hard for me, like, because she just became a human. Like,
yes.
Fae. She just became a fae. Like, how long ago did they sleep
like
together?
400 years.
Like, I'm sure they don't even remember it. Like,
I know. It's not like something they think about.
No. They don't look at you and be like, my ex-lover.
I remember what it felt like. Yeah. I agree. I totally forgot that she meets Emery and Gwen in the same day, and I love it. Both females are very blunt and vulnerable right off the bat, which appeals to Nesta. And I just thought that was sweet.
I thought it was sweet too. Perfect friends for Nesta.
I agree. So Nesta starts talking to the House of Wind, which apparently is something nobody else does, and it seems to take a liking to her. And SGM uses the verbiage that the house was fussing as if it were a mother hen, which makes me think of Reese and even Farah. Do we know how the house got its consciousness?
No.
It just makes me wonder, like, who's doting over her?
Yeah.
Is it like an extension of Reese and Farah's power? And because they dote. Like, I think it's its own, like, has this weird, like, sentient consciousness. But, like, if it's an extension of them and they're both very mother henny, like, if that's why it's happening.
I could see that. And it's very Reese-like, and even, like, Farah, to be very thoughtful and be like, oh, you read smut? Here, I read all of these. Here's, like, all this recommendation. Like, I made you this. Like, that's very, very, like, Reese and Farah.
Yes.
So I could see that, like, maybe the House of Wind taking on that kind of personification. Gwen, when Nesta meets her, has this like cracking energy around her that Nesta's power like grumbles in response.
Ooh.
And I wonder if Gwen has powers that are yet to be revealed.
That would be exciting.
It is exciting. I'm waiting for it.
We have to get more of her.
And then just a little name corner for Gwen. I guess I didn't do this for Emery. Sorry, Em.
We'll do you later.
Okay. Her full name is Gwyneth Berdara.
We get a last name.
Which is, I think, important. Gwen typically means like fair, white, blessed, holy, happy, which obviously like she's a priestess, she's holy, she's very happy, she is very fair. Berdara means bloody, bloodied, or bled.
Interesting.
Which is kind of sad.
Well, I like the contrast there between the two, and I think that is sad, but it also represents her story, which we find out more about later.
Yeah, and maybe more to her story that's coming. I don't know.
Nesta has a nightmare and attempts the 10,000 stairs to the House of Wind again. She slips and innately uses her power to burn holes into the stones for her fingers to grip on. The next day, we get like the same song and dance during training between Cassian and Nesta. So we see the house like continually listening and doing extra things for Nesta. Not only does Nesta accept this, but she is also kind back. Why do you think she can treat a house kindly and not anybody else?
Gwen kind of like mentions this too. Like Nesta does not want pity. And throughout this book, it seems that Nesta's better at establishing new relationships than she is navigating her previous relationships. And honestly, sometimes I feel this way in just a sense of like she has a lot of baggage to work through, and sometimes it's just nice that like no one knows that about you. You don't have to do the same song and dance because you're there. There's like nothing to go on there. There's no pattern to repeat. There's no like trauma triggered.
Yeah.
So I get that.
Yeah.
But she really hates pity.
Yeah.
She hates feeling like someone's going to pity her.
She really does.
Yeah. We even see this in like when she was living in poverty, right? Like,
yeah, she's still just trying to hold her head up high, and comes with that pride piece too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nesta also notes the Illyrians mocking Cassian when she refuses to train, and she says a year ago she would have gone up to them and made them think twice before insulting Cassian again. Okay, well now this question might not even be relevant because I was thinking like, do you think something else happened between Cassian and Nesta? Which there's a bonus chapter, so there must have been. Or like what happened to make her be so anti him outwardly?
I wonder if it's her thing again of like, I can't be close to him because they'll know that like it's like a point of weakness, not like putting him in danger.
Yeah,
but still, I'm like, that's
especially
dumb.
after the war.
I'm like,
yeah,
they're his soldiers. I don't think that works.
I know.
She was so annoying. I hated her in this moment.
Just this moment?
Well, in a lot of moments. Nesta has a meal with Cassian and Azriel where they discuss the brewing tension across the sea. And Nesta and Cassian get into another fight with their words, ending with Cassian telling her that everyone hates her.
Yes. And yeah, that was intense. And then during this conversation, Vasa comes up, and Nesta reminisces on the fact that her father showed up for Vasa but never could for them. And hearing this all over again, I mean, how many times can we hit this point? Just makes me so mad at him. Why do you think he could become a father figure for Vasa but not for his own children?
I don't know.
I've probably asked this something like this 50 times since we started recording.
Well, because it's just confusing. It's like, just what happened?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And it's like kind of like, oh, you got money and conveniently you became a better dad.
That's how I felt. I'm like, oh, now that you're rich, you can take care of your children. Like not just financially, but like you can be there for them.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. It's not how parenthood works.
No. In this conversation, I love that Azriel just straight up asks Nesta, like, why aren't you training? I love like just being like, just ask her.
I love when anybody in this series asks a question. I love it. I love it.
So Cassian and Feyre talk about how things are going with Nesta, and he realizes that she won't train because it's in public at Windhaven.
Yeah. Cassian thinks Nesta hates him, and Feyre says she doesn't because she knows what that looks like. And she shares a little bit about how their mother only attended to Nesta, and it seemed to pit them against each other. Do you think Nesta really has ever hated Feyre?
No. She reminds me a lot of Manon in Throne of Glass, where, like, I really don't think she hates Feyre, but I think she projects her own hate of herself, like, onto Feyre because Feyre is, like, all goodness and, like, very, like, motherly, like, maternal, like, all of these things that, like, Nesta isn't. And so I think she just hates it. Yeah. She hates how good Feyre is because she wants to be that way.
Yeah. And I think this point of Feyre saying that their mother pitted them against each other, like, it gives us a lot of insight into why they haven't healed together and why they don't have just this great sisterly bond.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we forget a lot. Like, they're sisters. The history is there.
Yeah, we never got that. Like, we don't get any time with her mom, so we only see little snippets.
Yeah. Cassian goes to give Feyre a kiss on the cheek when she helps him figure out that Nesta would... Did I say Feyre or Nesta?
You said Feyre. Goes to give Feyre a kiss on the cheek.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Cassian goes... I thought I said Nesta. I was like, no. So Cassian goes to give Feyre a kiss on the cheek when she helps him figure out that Nesta would probably train privately. Yeah. And I love how affectionate he is. Yeah. I have family members who grew up with parents who were pretty absent, like Cassian's, and they are also really affectionate. And I love that, like, he gives freely because he knows how it feels, like, to not have that. Yeah. It's sweet. Oh, I know.
I just want to give him a hug.
He would hug you.
I know. And I'd take it. Cassian and Nesta make a bargain for her to train at the House of Wind for an hour in exchange for him to do anything she wants. And then she has her first official training session. Yay!
So Nesta sneakily trying to give Cassian hints about her needs without, like, not asking for them. Yeah. That's so me.
Oh my goodness.
That's why sometimes people are like, Nesta's so annoying. I'm like, okay, well, thank you. Like, I really just feel that way sometimes. Like, it's really hard for me to, like, advocate for my needs. And her, like, not wanting to look like a fool, I totally get. My sister is very athletic. My dad is very athletic. Sometimes my dad would be like, play this sport. Not that, like, I'm uncoordinated. Right. I think I'm, like, decent at a lot of sports. But a lot of sports, I am not. And a lot of sports, I don't like. For example, softball. Do not have me catch a flying hardball going at my face. And I hated feeling so stupid, like looking stupid. I'm like, I get it, Nesta. Yeah. I get it.
Well, I also just want to validate that you are so loved and you're nothing like the negative stuff about Nesta.
No. No. But in that sense.
You're teachable and willing to work on yourself and grow.
I'm such a people pleaser, though, so I would do it instead of just being like, no, I would just.
You don't let your pride get in the way, right?
No, I have no pride.
Okay, well, gives us something to work with. Turns into a therapy session for Katie.
I'm like crying.
Let's talk about it. Oh my goodness. Okay, so they get their tattoo, and it's in the shape of an 8-pointed star, which we see in other series. But, so we don't spoil anything, I'm just going to put that in our brains. I'm going to save it for connecting the cosmos. Okay. So anyway, I love that Nesta realizes here that there are things other than alcoholism and isolation that can help calm the noise in her head. And I honestly just wanted to hug her here, and she'd probably hate me for it. She would not take my hug. She'd be like, what are you doing? I just took a few breaths. Yeah. Don't give me a hug. And I'd be like, okay.
I would want to give her a hug too.
Yeah. And then when they're finished training, Nesta mentions Emery, and we're reminded that wing clipping was actually made illegal, but Emery slipped through the cracks under Amarantha's reign, and it just makes her wing clipping even more sad to me. And fingers crossed that was a foreshadow for Dawn Thiessen to heal her.
Which, okay, I'm going to be honest. Someone commented on our TikTok, and they were like, I thought Helion healed. And I was like, you're right. But I looked it up, and they both heal.
They both heal, but because we've talked about that. We've talked
that they both heal.
Yeah, so Thesen's like, that is his main thing. Like, he is the most powerful healer in the land, but Helion has some healing abilities, as well as he's a spell cleaver. So you'd imagine there's like spells that have to do with almost everything. So I feel like Helion might have a little bit of
both
everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, Thesen is like the healer of all healers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you cleared that up for me because I was like, what?
Yeah. I know it is kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Okay. So a little bit of connecting the cosmos. So I will say that there are like very minor spoiler alerts for Crescent City. Minor? Yeah. Yeah. There's spoiler alerts for Crescent City.
Which one?
I would say all of it, like the whole series so far.
Okay.
So all the way through Crescent City 3.
Okay.
So Nesta and Cassian each get the tattoo of the 8-pointed star when they make their bargain, which is the same shape of Bryce's star that she has on her chest when she gets the Starborn powers in Crescent City. And there's also one priestess in Throne of Glass who has an 8-pointed star on her forehead, who is described, she's like describing the blessing of the Mother Goddess. There's no other spoilers for Throne of Glass, like that's it. So here's what we know. The 8-pointed star is the emblem of the Starborn Fae. Regulus, who is like the main bad guy in Crescent City, tells us that it's also a beacon to the homeland of the Fae, which we find out in Crescent City 3 is Prithian. Cassian creates a combo maneuver while training Nesta called the 8-pointed star, and when Nesta uses it, she says it's as if the star is stamped on her very heart, which Bryce's is. The chamber in the prison in Crescent City 3 has an 8-pointed star. Well, it's in Crescent City 3 and later in this book, and it seems to be the emblem of the previous Dusk Court. But, like, what? Like, how does this connect Nesta and Bryce and then this random priestess in Tog? Like, an 8-pointed star is very specific.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what does all this mean? So I just kind of listed out our facts of what we've seen throughout all 3 series. And it's interesting to me that it seems like Nesta and Bryce seem to be so connected. And then we see in Crescent City 3 that Nesta is the person that Bryce spends time with. She really, and then Azriel too, but like she doesn't spend time with other females. So I don't know.
I don't know either. And I wonder if, because you can like see Bryce, like it's on her chest.
Yeah.
I wonder if Nesta clocked that and was like, oh, that's like my tattoo, mine and Cassian's tattoo. And also like Cassian has it as well.
Yes, but it seems to be connected to Nesta.
Yeah, and what does it mean? Like, does that mean like Nesta's a Starborn Fae? Like, is she going to get these like Starborn powers?
Because even, you know, it being in the chamber in the prison, being connected to the Dusk Court, like Nesta also has a very powerful experience with that chamber in this book, in Silver Flames, and then Bryce has it in Crescent City 3. So they're both connected to that chamber in some capacity. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But I thought that was so interesting.
It is interesting. I'm so excited
for
the new ACOTAR book. That's who knows when it's going to be released.
And there's just so many unanswered questions still.
Oh, yeah.
That I need to know. Okay. Well, that was it. That was our Connecting the Cosmos.
Next episode, we are covering chapters 13 and 24.
Yes.
And follow us on the social medias.
Yes. TikTok is at It's Fate Podcast. Instagram and YouTube is at It's Fate Pod. And you can rate, review, and subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
Thanks.
Bye.